process of talking about what a disciple is. Now, this is going to be a two-part message. Part A today and Part B next Sunday. So I'm not going to give you a lot of the how-tos, just the what is it this morning. So just remember that. I want to go ahead and just read from the book of Luke chapter 9. And we're going to look at just two verses, 23 and 24. And this is what it says in the Word of God. Then he said to them all, if anyone wants to follow after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life because of me will save it. Let us pray. Father, we love you and we thank you for the opportunity that we have to gather in your house today. And Lord, I just pray that as we have come, Lord, excited about Vacation Bible School, Lord, that we would just take a moment to pause and to reflect on our internal situation. God, help us to be mindful of where we're at in our spiritual walk. Help us to be truthful with that. And Lord, may we just know that when we come to that reckoning, God, that when we turn to you and repent, Lord, all things can be made right. God, have your way in our hearts and in our lives. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen.
Amen.
I want to start out this morning by sharing with you an illustration that I kind of think helps tie all of this together and begins to meld it into one understandable picture. But a man once told of getting his first real job. He said that he had gone and he had graduated from college and he had the aspirations of being a field engineer. So he went to work with this one company and he told everybody, he was so excited about his job when they asked him what he was doing. He said, I'm going to school or I'm going to be a field engineer. Well, he ended up entering into several schools that this company provided. And that path went on for about 4 months. And at the end of those 4 months, he graduated from that field engineering school, company school, and he had his credentials. By company standards, he was labeled a field engineer. Now here's the thing, and this man made this comment. He said going to college and going to the corporate classes are not what made him a field engineer. He said he could not actually be a field engineer until he got out into the job force and into the field and actually started doing some what, church? Some engineering, some work geared toward that. So the lesson that he was saying was not something that he could just read about. It was not something that he could just be taught about. It was something that he had to enter into and lay his hand to the plow, so to speak, and grow into that capacity. It was something that he had to build up to. Well, this morning as we come together and we again remember what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, we talked about what is a Christian. And we went to the book of Acts and we had to look where Christians were first called Christians first, was in Antioch, and we kind of pulled a picture from them. We said that a Christian was someone who has heard the good news, the gospel of Jesus Christ. We said that it was someone who believes the good news, the gospel, of course, of Jesus Christ. And it was someone who turns away from the direction that we're headed. And let me stop there for just a minute, because if we're not headed towards God, we're headed towards what? Towards sin. We're headed towards the world. So a Christian is someone who turns from the direction that they're headed in, and they move back towards God. A very important ingredient. They hear, they believe, and they turn back to God, and then they experience that grace of God. And the last thing that it says, it closed out that section of Scripture, is that a follower, someone who believes, is a disciple. And again, it's that we're going to hit on this morning. And I want to ask you something moving forward. And I will stick to my notes a lot so that I don't mess up the flow of these two messages. But if being a Christian is becoming a disciple, let me ask you a question this morning, church. What makes a disciple? How many of you have heard the term disciple? Raise your hand just briefly this morning. If being a child of God, if being a Christian means becoming a disciple, what exactly is a disciple? Are you a disciple? Am I a disciple? Are we all disciples as we gather here in Long Branch Baptist Church this morning? Or are we something else? Are we something different? And you see, disciple and discipleship, they're buzzwords. You all raised your hand just a minute ago. You will not go to a class, you will not go to any kind of training that the convention puts on or that other pastors may put on without hearing that term, without hearing that word. And the church talks about their need to make disciples. Other people talk about wanting to make disciples of others. And that's being done in most instances through something that we used to call years ago, raise your hand if you've heard this term, discipleship training classes. How many of us have ever heard that? That is how we sought to make disciples. We brought them into the church, we sat them down, and that is the path that we took. And it's not necessarily that simple. It doesn't work that way. And there's some misconceptions. If you remember a couple of weeks ago, we talked about some misconceptions in regards to what is a Christian. If you go out and you ask 100 people, what is a Christian? You're probably going to get 50 different answers. And it's the same thing with a disciple. If you go out today and you're asking 100 people, what is a disciple? You're probably going to get at least 50 different answers. Let me share some misconceptions before we move on. Number one is that discipleship is just about learning biblical knowledge. That's misconception number one. Discipleship is just about gaining biblical knowledge. And when you think about that, when we get to that point, we feel that if we can say propitiation, we feel that if we can say sanctification, we feel that if we can say justification, and all of these fancy sounding words that are put forward, we feel that once we can say those things, then we've arrived. We've gained that biblical knowledge, man. We're smart, and we can call ourselves disciples because we've got all of that mind stuff going on in here. Once we know a little bit of Greek, and once we know a little bit of Hebrew, and then we're on the right track. Or once we've gone and we've taken all the Beth Moore study classes that we can take, or once we've gone on and taken all the Andy Stanley study classes that we can take, then man, we're on the way. We're disciples. And you see, that's a misconception. The first misconception, so to speak. The second thing that I want us to think about is that there's another misconception, and that's that discipleship happens only on certain nights and only in a church building. It has to be on Sunday nights, or it has to be on Wednesday nights. By God, those are the only two times that discipleship can take place. This is the sacred time set forth by churches for us to come together and learn the discipleship mentality and the methods of disciples. Something else as far as that goes is that it must involve books, and preferably from the Baptist sector of things, Lifeway Christian Resource. It has to be that Lifeway Christian Resource stuff, and it must take place in the church, usually with the building not too hot and not too cold, because that can cause a little bit of inconvenience. The next misconception is that discipleship is optional for Christians. It's happening at 11 a.m. on Sunday morning, and that's the only time it's happening. Out of the 168 hours in a week, I get all I need to know about Jesus in 1 hour on Sunday morning. That's the other misconception. And then here's an attitude that comes with that misconception. We get that thought process in our minds and in our hearts that, so what if other people go to church? So what if other people want to do more? So what if other people want to serve more? They better just be glad I show up that one day of the week for that hour. It doesn't matter what everybody else does. I'm just as saved as they are. What difference does it make? And those misconceptions drive us. And here's the fourth one that I want to share this morning as we move on. Because, again, this morning is about laying the groundwork for next Sunday, how to become a disciple. But that fourth misconception is that discipleship's goal is to show me the rules to be a better Christian. How many of us in here this morning could honestly say there's some area of life in our Christian walk that we could be better at? Raise your hand. Thank God for the honesty that's in this room. But I want you to understand something today. Discipleship is not about the cans and cans. It's not about the do's and the don'ts. It's not about the rules and the regulations. Discipleship is about growth and relationship. That's what discipleship is. It's about entering into something with Jesus. It's about entering in and growing closer to Jesus. It's about getting to that point, and please forgive me when I put it this way, but it's about that point that every morning when you wake up and you take that first breath of fresh air, you know that the only reason you took that is because God allowed it. And it's about getting up and going out and everything you do, looking for God, seeking God, asking God, and directing other people to God. It is about coming into a relationship with God that is so pure and so fresh and and so firm that everything in your life revolves around Him. He's that central figure. And that's what I would like for you to take from this misconception stuff this morning, that a disciple is. It is someone who is in a relationship with Christ, and it is such a deep relationship that there is nothing that will ever take the place of that relationship. Because I may be jumping ahead just a little bit, but church, hear this today. Men, let me ask you a question. This illustration just came into my mind because of the conversation that Lauren and I had on the way home yesterday. But men, let me ask you a question. If you're going to do something in your house, or something that involves your family, or something that involves your immediate finances, or a big decision within your household, how many of you, by show of hands, are first going to do the right thing and consult your wife about that decision before you go out the door? I'm glad some of you started raising your hands. Now, why are you going to do that? You're going to do that because that relationship is of value to you. You're going to do that because you realize that the two of you are no longer like this. The two of you are like this. You are one. And church, I want you to understand this today. That should be the same approach that we take in our relationship with our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Everything we do, we ought to be in consultation with Him, because we are that one, that close, that unit. And I pray today that that is where we are. But let's look back just again, because I want to let Jesus define discipleship this morning. I want to let Jesus define what a disciple is. I'm going to reread Luke chapter 9, and let's get on into the message, verses 23 through 24. Then He said to them all, if anyone wants to follow after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life because of me will save it. Now, we've heard what Jesus was saying there, and we have been trying to understand what disciple is. We're starting that process, and we've got to get to that place where we truly understand what a disciple is. Not, no offense, but not what Grandmama said it was, not what Grandpapa said it was, not what Mama or Daddy said it was, but what Jesus said it was. That's what we've got to establish. And as we move forward this morning, Jesus says, if anyone would come after me. That is important. He said, if anyone would come after me. He's saying this morning, church, if anybody wants to follow me. He's saying, church, this morning, if anyone wants to draw close to me. He's saying this morning, church, that if anyone wants to associate with me, if anyone wants to walk with me and be with me, then He's telling us the pattern. He's telling us the way. And what we need to understand is that is the biblical definition of a disciple. It is a follower of Jesus Christ. It is someone who seeks to model and mimic Jesus Christ in every form and in every fashion. And Jesus also tells us what being a disciple requires. Number one, it requires a life of self-denial. If you're taking notes, let me mention that again. It requires self-denial. Because He says in the scripture right there, He says, let him deny himself. We usually think of self-denial in a negative way. It's something that we frown upon. It's something that we are scared of. It's something that we don't even want to think about, because self-denial in our mind, and shake your head yes if you agree with this, and no if you don't. But immediately when we hear the term, the phrase self-denial, what immediately enters into our minds is we think that we have to give up something. Or we can't do this, or we can't do that. In our minds, that's what self-denial means to us. It means that we've got to just get rid of everything. We've got to live boring lives. We can never have fun. We can't do anything exciting. Because, by God, we're Christians now, and if we smile, somebody may think we don't love Jesus. If we laugh, somebody may think that we've done something wrong. If we go and hang out with some friends we haven't seen in years, somebody may crucify us for that. That's the mindset that we take on when we hear the term self-denial. But this morning, I want you to understand, church, that self-denial actually has more to do with changing our priorities. It has to do with stopping and stepping back and looking at where we are and what we're doing and who we are. Because here's the thing. Whatever is a priority, whatever has that priority in our lives, whatever takes that place will dictate what happens in our lives. Emily, as a matter of fact, made the high school or junior varsity high school volleyball team. at West Clayton High School. That means that we're going to be busy for a while again on Tuesdays and Thursday nights. It gets tiresome, and it really does. But she loves to do it. She enjoys doing it. And the comment was made that perhaps she could be a part of some travel volleyball team. Well, let me tell you what happens when you become a part of the travel volleyball team. All of your weekends are filled slap up with running the road, getting ready, or in the midst of games. And here's what happens. You think, well, it is what it is. And that's right, it is what it is. But Sundays are out. Sundays are just a no-budge rule for my wife and myself, because that is the day that she should be here in church worshiping God in a corporate setting. But what happens in that travel session is it becomes, it's not just Saturday anymore, it becomes Monday through Saturday, and then games on Sunday, and that becomes the priority because you begin to eat, sleep, and drink volleyball. And once you begin to eat, sleep, and drink something, that takes priority in your life. And that is the main focus of all of your time, all of your energy, all of your resources, all of your finances. And church, let's just be honest this morning. The majority of everything else has to take a back seat to what you have just made your number one priority. And here's the thing. And I don't care if you like me for what I'm about to say or not. I'm just speaking truth. That is why our families are so jacked up today. Because our priorities are everywhere but where they need to be. Yeah. Now, I'm not telling you got to run around having people call you a nut job. That's not what I'm telling you. But I am telling you this. Your heart reflects your priorities. And vice versa. Your priorities reflect your heart. Now, we can justify anything. We can justify, as I heard somebody, and I really didn't understand what she meant. I guess because I hadn't heard it so long. They're talking about chasing that paper. Y'all know what chasing the paper means?
Money.
It means chasing the what?
Money.
Money. And there are some who will spend 23 and a half hours out of a 24-hour day chasing that paper. Because that's what their priority is. And church, all I'm saying to you is this. Whatever your family sees you doing the majority of the time, is what they deem as the most important thing they can value themselves in their own life. If it's Jesus, then that's what it's going to be. If it's not, it's going to be whatever it will be. And here's the thing. Here's the thing that's so hard. Here's the thing that's so conflicting. Jesus wants us to make Him our number one priority. And here's what's tough. We know He does. But in the back of our minds, what we're saying is, I've been taught growing up my whole life that all I got to do is ask Jesus to forgive me, and He'll forgive me for it. So I can go ahead and make these other things my number one priority, and maybe later we'll get Jesus into that number one slot. And we've all been guilty of that at some point in time. Maybe this morning as we sit in this church today, we are currently guilty of that in some form or fashion. And what I'm saying to you today is Jesus wants that number one place. And when we give Him that number one place, you will be so amazed at how so many other things work out for you in your walk, in your life. Next thing that I want to talk about moving on is being a disciple requires a total commitment. Jen, can you put that verse back on the screen, 23? Can you put that back up there for just a minute? It's messing with me going back and forth. But then He said to them all, if anyone wants to follow me, number one, let him deny himself. The second thing He says there is take up his cross daily. That's the second part of this verse of what a disciple is that I want to talk about this morning. It says to take up his cross daily. When Jesus took up His own cross, think about this morning, church. When He came and left the glory of heaven and ministered to men and women who were dying and lost in their sin, did nothing but what He should have done, what God sought to be done. It took a total commitment for Him when He picked up His cross, so to speak. When He bore the burden of our sin, so to speak. When He allowed Himself to be nailed to that cross to be our substitute. Jesus took on, it took total commitment. It took His everything. And that's what Jesus wants from us this morning. He wants that total commitment of our lives. He wants us to be totally committed to Him. He wants us to be totally committed to His purpose for our lives here and now. And And I'm going to say this because I do a lot of statistic searching. It's just a thing that goes on in my mind. It's how my mind works. If the Christian population, let's dense it down this way. If the Christian population today in the United States of America truly does border somewhere around 45%. If there are truly 45% who say that we're Christians, and we go to church at least once or twice a month, and we love Jesus, and we know that Jesus died for us and we accept that. If that be the number, 45%, then here's what I would say to you this morning. Out of that 45%, maybe in the single digits, truly are willing to seek to walk a life of total commitment to Christ. And here's the thing. It's not because they don't want to. It's because we are so torn on what to do next, on which way to go next, on what we've got to do today or tomorrow. But we've got to scale things down, and we've got to get to a point of being totally committed to Christ. When we found out that Abby was truly going to go to UNCW, and I'm an open book for him, I share it all, it doesn't matter when it comes to me. But when I found out that with the scholarships that Abby's got, and the student loans that she's personally undertaking, the semester cost for her to go to school is going to be, just this last semester, $3,157.60. That was a one semester cost. Now, next semester, depending upon if she keeps those other scholarships, it's either going to be the same thing or it's going to be a little more than what it was last time. So what Lauren and I understood is that we have got to come to a place and a point where we start checking our priorities. We have to come to a point where we have to check our commitment level. We have to get to a point where we inventory what is going on, what is coming in, what is going out, and set priorities as to what is important, and what we can do with, and what we can't do with, and get rid of all the stuff that we don't need. Because if we don't do that, we can never accomplish what needs to be accomplished from semester to semester. And I use that illustration to say this to you this morning as a people who I think truly do love God and want to have a greater relationship with God, that we must come to a point in our lives where we inventory our life and we look at the things that we cannot do without and that we can do without, and we get rid of all of those things that we can do without, which are competing with our time with God. And I'm not just speaking about church. That's not what I'm speaking about. Let me ask you this morning. How many of us have made it a daily habit to draw closer to God through prayer? What about through Scripture? What about through personal reflection? What about through meditation? What about through just serving others in some way today that would show the love of Christ? But we've got to think about these things. Total commitment. Number 3, being a disciple requires complete obedience. Jesus said in the last portion of this verse, and do what, church? What's the last 2 words? Follow me. Follow me. That is a very important thing that we need to understand because it requires complete obedience. To follow Jesus means more than to walk behind him. It means to follow all he has said. It means to do all he has said. It means to follow his words for our lives as we live out our lives. And Jesus wants people who will do what he has called them to do. That is what he yearns for. He wants people to put their hand to the plow and not look back. He wants people to be faithful. He wants people to love him. He wants people to share the love of Christ with others. He wants those who are faithful and who are loyal unto him. And if we'll stop and everybody will close their eyes for just a moment and we'll think about our network of friends and we'll think about our family members and we'll ask ourselves this question: who do we let in? And the answer to that question is this: we let in those who will be loyal to us. And that's what Christ is seeking. He is seeking those who are loyal and who will follow. And those things that we just talked about, church, that is Jesus' definition of a disciple. That's Jesus' definition of what a disciple is, of what a disciple looks like. And how should we look at discipleship? Gene, have you got Ephesians? We have to download that. I want to read something to you from Ephesians chapter 4. I think it's verses 11 through 13. And this is from the Message version. It's not from my normal version, it's from the Message. And it says, He handed out gifts above and below, filled heaven with His gifts, filled earth with His gifts. He handed out gifts of apostle, prophet, evangelist, and pastor, teacher. And then it goes on to say, to train Christians in skilled servant work, working within Christ's body, the church. And listen to what it says next. Until we are all moving rhythmically. Is it keeping up with the Gene? Till we are all moving rhythmically. Can I ask you a question this morning? If something moves rhythmically, what does it do? What does it look like? If you have a piano playing and you have a guitar playing, and they're playing in rhythm, does it not sound beautiful? It sounds sweet. It makes something just soothing to the soul. It makes something that just causes your spirits to elevate. Sometimes, depending upon what kind of music it is, when they're playing in rhythm, it makes you want to get up and dance. It makes you want to do all kinds of things when you hear that music playing. And church, I want you to understand this morning. Jesus has given us what we need in our churches so that we can make sweet music, so that we can make a beautiful melody, so that we can all be moving rhythmically together towards the cross of Jesus Christ. And it says, and easily with each other, efficient and graceful in response to God's Son, fully matured and fully developed within and without, fully alive, it says, in Christ. Let me just read these buzzwords again. It says rhythmic. It says easily. It says efficiently. It says graceful. It says fully matured. It says fully developed. And when you have all of those things, you will be fully alive in Christ. Can I ask you, just by a showing of agreement by saying amen, how many of you in here today would love to be a part of a body of Christ that moved in those ways?
Amen.
Full of grace. Fully alive in Christ. You see, here's the thing this morning. As we think about what a disciple is, and we ask the question, am I a disciple? Here's what we need to understand this morning. God has put people within the church to help other people become disciples of Jesus Christ. I want you to realize that this morning. To prepare God's people for work. To prepare the people of God to grow in faith and in knowledge. To help God's people become mature Christians. To become more like Christ. And today, as you sit here, the fact of the matter is this. If you have truly accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, He has put you here to be one of those people. But we have to make a decision. We have to set that priority. We have to make that commitment. And we have to move in the way that we would, that God would want us to move. Because hear this morning. Discipleship is Christians helping other Christians become like Jesus Christ. Discipleship is simply Christians helping other Christians become like Jesus Christ. Let me get ready to close out. Cowboys don't have watches. What time is it? I told y'all last week you weren't getting out 11:45 if you did. Truths about discipleship. I want to touch on these quickly when we get to the end of it. And I want us to see if we can clear up some of our misconceptions. Some of the things that we talked about earlier. Remember misconception number 1. Discipleship is all about increasing our biblical knowledge. Here's the truth. Okay? Here's the truth. And I want us to cling to this truth. Discipleship does include learning. It does include learning more about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Yes, that is a part of it, but that's not the end of it. We go back to that fact earlier that we said it's more than learning. It is about growing in that relationship. And here's what I mean by that. God wants to do more than save us. If you're glad God has saved you this morning, raise your hand. I want you to understand this. He wants to do more than that. He wants you to experience Him in every area of life. God wants you to do more than experience Him. He wants you to know Him so well that you know what needs to be said or done as you walk through the things of life. Here's the thing. Discipleship takes us past the words printed on the page, and it takes us to God who seeks to know us personally. And please don't take this the wrong way, but if we would quit reading this thing just to gain a little bit of knowledge, and we would start reading it to experience God a little deeper, our relationship with the Lord would take on a whole different outlook. It would look different, it would taste different, it would feel different, and we would experience God different. And no offense, I love smart people. I aren't one, but I love smart people. But it burns me up to see people only approach the Word of God from a theological, from a mindset perspective, because they are not getting the full effects of God's Word when that is the only way they're approaching it, from a place of intellect. And that's a sad, sad thing. Number 2, misconception. Discipleship happens only on certain nights in a certified building, in the church, a.k.a. That's the misconception. Here's the truth. Discipleship, church, can take place anywhere at any time. Amen? Amen. Anywhere at any time. Jesus gave the 12 on-the-job training. He gave those disciples, his apostles, whatever you want to call them. He gave them on-the-job training. And here's the thing I want you to understand this morning. I'm tired of hearing, I don't know how. I've never done it before. God hasn't gifted me that way. Because God will give you on-the-job training too if you just get up and go in the direction that you know He would have you to go.
Amen.
You'll do it. Because that's who God is. That's what God does. That's what God wants. And we need to understand that. God is always seeking to use us, church, where we work, where we play, where we do whatever it is we do. He seeks to use us there. And we need more Christians discipling other Christians, not in a classroom setting, just like this morning, half of you are sitting here trying your best not to go to sleep. We need more Christians who will disciple people outside of the walls of the building, because that's where life takes place. You're not going to tell me about your deepest problems, why we sit in church on Sunday morning, but you sure might over coffee somewhere. You sure might over a meal somewhere. You sure might over a round of golf. You sure may over a hunting trip. And that is a perfect opportunity for discipleship to begin to take place. Third misconception, if you remember, was discipleship is optional for Christians. It's not. Here's the truth behind that. It is not optional for a child of God. A Christian. All Christians are called to follow Jesus. All Christians are called to find what Christ has for your life. Every one of us, without exception, there is no excuse, there is no escape. God desires that all children of God walk with Him, enjoy Him, and grow deeper with Him. Misconception number 4, and the final misconception, is that discipleship's goal is to show you the rules to be a better Christian. And here's the truth. Here's the truth, and we'll be closing on the telling of the message in just a moment. Discipleship's goal, church, is to teach you to be like Jesus. And I'm going to make a comment that I don't want anybody to get offended by. And I'm not referring to this church. I'm referring to church anywhere and everywhere. But do you know that if we truly had people in the church who sought to be more like Jesus, that we sure have less problems in our churches today than what we have? Do you know that if we truly had people in our church that sought to be more like Jesus, we'd have more people in our churches than what we got today? And you say, well, how do you know that they're not, preacher? All you got to do is look around. All you got to do is look around. And I'm not talking about your temper. I'm not talking about what you like to watch on TV. So what if you watch the guy on Friday nights when he comes back home? Who cares? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the attitude and the heart in which you approach other people. Because Christ seemed to do it a whole lot differently than what we as people do today. And I'm not talking about babysitting. I'm not talking about running people down. I'm talking about being sensitive in spirit to the needs of others around you and actually caring about what's going on in other people's lives. And here's the thing. We don't. We don't. Because if we did, it looks so different. And that's what discipleship's goal is to teach us to be like Jesus Christ. God doesn't care if we memorize the rules and the regulations of Long Branch or Drawbridge or Mount Eagle. He could care less. He don't care if we know our bylaws at all. What he cares is that we know his laws. That's all he's worried about. But he's not worried about the rules and the regulations, because if we enter into a relationship, those things will take care of themselves. He's worried about us being like his Son, Jesus Christ. That's what he's concerned with. That's what he wants. He wants the world to see Jesus through us. God's goal for discipleship is simply this, church. And this is going to sum it all up very clearly and very precisely. God's goal for discipleship is for you and for me and for every person that truly loves Christ to be a reflection of Christ. Where we live, where we work, where we play, wherever we go, on this thing we call it. That's God's goal for discipleship. And I can't help but think this morning, as you go in, if you would just come to play something soft, we'll sing in just a moment. But I can't help but think today, if we would all truly be honest and assess where we are in our hearts and our lives. Not get up after the song's through playing and the announcements have been made and go out to church house and go eat lunch and forget about everything that's gone on here this morning. But if we would truly take it with us and we would truly examine and truly reflect, I can't help but think that we would all, every single one of us in this room today, every single person in every church around this world today, would have to come to the same conclusion, that we are all a part of the problem in some area or in some way. That's not the question. The question is, because we've all got faults and we've all got shortfalls, the question is, are we going to do something about it? Are we going to turn to Christ and let Christ do something about that within us? Are we going to seek to be that reflection today, tomorrow, the next day, next week, next year? Are we going to develop that attitude, that heart of sincere concern and care? Are we going to be more like Jesus? Every head bowed, every eye closed this morning. I want you to take this opportunity to just be silent. I'm not going to talk. This altar is open if you want to go ahead and come down now. And I want you to start to tackle that question. Am I a disciple? Truly. Not just in word, but in deed, in heart, in love, in action. And if you can't answer yes, if you cannot answer yes this morning, don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. Just be prepared and be willing to allow Christ enter in and start making that difference. Because the truth is this. The truth is this. Not one of us in this building today can say yes to every area of our life. Which area is it that we need to work on today? Moments of silence.